Way the third Wednesday of each month, and now we have Alethea Cahoy.
That is correct.
Okay, very good. She is now the Interim Executive Director. Talk a little bit about what the responsibilities now. You've been involved with United Way for a while.
Yes.
How did you end up stepping in as the Interim Executive Director?
Actually, I was appointed to the position. I currently work part-time with the River Bluff Community Foundation, and I have been involved with United Way indirectly since 2020 with since 2000 with my husband, who was involved with United Way on different aspects. Citizen Review Committee, he was campaign chair at least once, he was board president. So involved, learned a lot about United Way that way. And then I myself joined the Citizen Review Committee in 2017. I filled a seat where a resident was unable to complete their term. And I've just been with United Way since then on the Citizen Review Committee, helping allocate funds to our agencies. And then in 2022, I was asked to join the board as a board member. And since 2023, I have been the chairperson of the Citizen Review Committee.
So you're in on an interim basis, but it looks like
Yes.
they picked a good person. You seem to have a passion for the United Way, Alethea.
I do. It always spoke to me when my husband would talk about it, the interesting aspect of how much really supported the community. The funds stayed local. The funds were given local. The funds, we had businesses involved in it, residents involved in it, and it was just a great way to give back and support Clinton and the surrounding area.
You are, of course, on an interim basis. You're going to be hiring a new executive director. How is that process going?
It is going well. We so far have we've received 13 applications for the process. We're accepting resumes and applications until Friday, the end of the day Friday. And then we're going to start looking to hopefully hire somebody to take on the permanent directorship by our annual meeting, which is March 25th.
Talk about that hiring process. I would imagine there's going to be an interview process and things along those lines, and I would imagine you've probably got a committee who's going to make that decision.
Yes, we have several board members and ad hoc board members who are joining us to participate in the interview selection process, I guess. We will hopefully start interviewing. We're accepting applications through Friday, as I had said, and then we'll review those applications and then start scheduling interviews for the following week, that first week of March.
I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the applications, but what are some of the backgrounds of these people?
They're all across the board. We have people who have United Way experience. We have people who have had other management experience, people from health industries, people from, just across the board.
Okay.
All different skill sets, a lot of managerial experience, banking experience, financial accounting type experience. So I think we have a good pool of people that we're looking at here.
And we got Gary DeLacy with us as well. Now, Gary, I know you've been involved with the United Way for a number of years. What is it that attracted you to the United Way?
Well, Cheryl McCullough is pretty persuasive in her day. I actually had 2 stints with United Way when I was a principal at Comanche. So that goes back in that 2001 to 2010 era. Then when I came back to be a superintendent, she reached out almost immediately. And so 2017 on, I've been with them, ran the campaign in 2018. I was on the Citizens Review Committee in that first tenure. So what draws me to it is that the money stays local. There are so many outstanding organizations, but bottom line is a lot of that money doesn't stay local. And I think what attracts me to United Way is when I see that money going to families and kids that I actually see in the hallways in school and riding on the bus right now, those kinds of things. That's where my passion is that I'd like to see those dollars go to kids that really need it, that I know.
Yeah, that really does kind of hit home, doesn't it?
It does when you know that you actually can put those resources to the family or to that student. It's like rubber hits the road kind of situation.
Again, we talked a little bit about this before the air. The timeline of the United Way has always intrigued me. There is the campaign drive time period. There is the allocation of the funds time period. Address that a little bit, Alethea.
Sure. Campaign typically kicks off the end of July, beginning of August, and runs typically through December. However, as Gary had shared earlier with his experience with the campaign, is that some businesses have times that work outside of that they will ask their employees to help support this process. So we do actually collect funds all year long. It follows our fiscal year, and then starting in February, we start accepting applications from agencies. And then in March, we start our Citizen Review Committee. And the Citizen Review Committee individuals act as liaisons to local agencies to learn more details about their programs. And then when those agencies come and present to the Citizen Review Committee, they can help really encourage the agency, but also share a little bit of extra insight with the review committee.
You've both been on the review committee, the review board.
Yes.
Talk about the responsibilities of that, Gary.
You feel a real responsibility because the resources are never enough for the ask. So you know that as you go through, and it's actually a scoring process with a rubric and everything. So you listen to their presentations. There's different things that you're listening for that you do. You weight that. It goes through a weighting process. So at the end, you actually do get a score sheet of how things were weighted. And then at that point, there still is some discretion of the committee to say, okay, do we feel strong enough that they get their full ask? Or do they get 85% of their ask? We've had a few situations where some groups have not met our expectations in that, either in past performance or how they interviewed, where they may get denied. Doesn't happen often, but it did happen and has happened. So especially I guess it seems like all the time the ask, and the asks aren't extravagant. I think our organizations, what they ask for is what they need, and unfortunately, most times we don't have enough to meet that ask. So that really makes the CRC decisions difficult, because what ends up happening is organizations that we truly believe should be funded at 100% are not, just because we don't have the money.
You know, I've got to believe that this is something, and you've been on the review board, I want to talk about your experience, you probably take home with you sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. As Gary said, there's never enough funding to fully fund what all the agencies are asking for. And truly, when you hear their presentations, they are asking for what they truly need. They don't ask for extra fluff in there, extra funding in there. They truly try to keep it to where it's at, and it is a very difficult decision to not be able to fund agencies fully, or to, as Gary said, have to deny funding for agencies because they're all doing such important work in our county.
So again, I appreciate both of you coming in today. I had a chance to visit with Gary a little bit at the ball game last night, and you were saying that you and your wife did enjoy your time in the fall. You were looking forward to doing that when you retired, and it went well for you.
It did. When you're in education, you don't get an opportunity to vacation
Outside of the summer.
Outside of the summer. Our first vacation, we had talked about for years, wouldn't it be great to go to the New England states during fall foliage, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine, and this was our first fall of doing that. So that was one of the reasons that I really look forward to retirement, is to be able to do some things that you've never been able to do. And education treated me very well. I have no regrets about my educational career, but there were sacrifices made, and now it's kind of time to make up for some of that.
All right, very good. Appreciate you coming in. Good to see you there last night as well. And finally, again, when do you think you make the decision on the executive director, and what do you want from this new director?
Hopefully we'll have a decision by our annual meeting. Again, March 25th is our annual meeting. We're just looking for somebody with strong leadership, organizational skills, really that understands the finances of our campaign and are able to really help get more contributions to our campaign and encourage more community support more county-wide support for our campaign.
Okay, well, you are scheduled to be back in on March 19th. So who's going to be
Wonderful.
coming in then?
That's a good question. We might have a new leader.
Okay, that would
To
be
introduce.
interesting. Again, thank you both for coming in today.
Thank you.
Right now, the Dan Patrick Show.
Dan Patrick.
And if you don't have to blitz Patrick Mahomes and you're going to put that kind of pressure on him, I've